In our very first story, a survey released by the Institute of Economic Affairs has ranked the office of the president as the second most corrupt state institution. The police emerged tops in the survey of 10 state institutions conducted between June and July last year. Addressing the media on the performance of the present government, a senior research fellow of the IEA, Dr. Ransford Jampo, said the government performed poorest in keeping prices down, creating jobs, and narrowing the gap between the rich and poor.
Now, 17 areas of concern were identified and views of respondents solicited as to how well or how badly the current government is addressing them. Now, government performed poorest in keeping prices down, as 71.5% of the respondents say so. This was followed respectively by creating jobs, that's 62%, narrowing the gap between rich and poor, being 58.2%, and improving the living standards of the people, that is 57.8%. Again, 56% of our respondents believe that the current government is managing the economy very badly, as against only 5% who say the government is doing very well. Among the 17 matters put before the respondents, it is only in the areas of combating HIV and AIDS and also resolving violent conflict between communities that more respondents consider government to be performing very well, as against those who think it is performing very badly. In the 15 other areas, more respondents consider the government to be performing very badly than those who consider it to be performing very well. The verdict is clear here and does not warrant any further protracted comments.
Now, according to the IEA, the survey conducted in all the country's 10 regions is in line with its goal of promoting good public policies. It also sought the views of Ghanaians on some of the country's most pressing issues, with most respondents worried they have to pay something or obtain a place in an institution or get treatment at a local clinic or hospital.
Bribery and corruption. We all know that bribery and corruption affect the moral and economic fabric of the country in diverse ways. Already in Ghana, the perception of bribery among the people is very high, and the acquisition of basic services like getting a document or a permit, getting water or sanitation services, electricity connection, getting treatment at a local health clinic or hospital, avoiding a problem with the police, like passing a checkpoint or avoiding a fine or arrest, avoiding a problem with the local tax officer, getting a place in primary school for a child, getting a place in a government senior high school for a child, and getting a place in a government tertiary institution for a child are deemed to be Herculean tasks in many instances. Respondents that we interviewed alleged that one has to pay a bribe, give a gift, or do a favor before he or she could obtain any of the aforementioned services.
Now, on the media, the report recommended an improvement in the image of practitioners to correct the perception that they abuse their freedom by being sensational and publishing false information. Now, government has meanwhile reacted or rejected the IEA's survey findings, naming the office of the president as the second most corrupt. A statement signed by the Minister for Communications, Dr. Edward Omane Boama, said government strenuously rejects any suggestion that the office is corrupt, let alone being the second most corrupt institution in Ghana, and that the practice where groups or organizations purport to conduct polls and through a visceral approach publish their outcomes in a manner that seeks to create the impression of corruption does little to advance the fight against corruption. The minister in the statement is challenging the IEA to offer credible proof to back its claims, adding that government has been taking far-reaching steps, including reforms in public financial administration and the establishment of tighter controls as part of efforts to address the issue of corruption. The Communications Minister also indicated that the IEA must bring out for verification the methodology for the so-called perception survey. According to Dr. Omane Boama, it is a matter of public record that no government has done more to expose and punish corruption like the John Mahama administration, and that organizations seeking to discuss the subject need to be guided by verified facts, not unfounded accusations hiding under the cover of perception. The statement also took issue with the timing of the release of the survey findings, explaining that coming just a day before the president delivers the State of the Nation address, the motive could not be lost on the objective-minded members of the public. Meanwhile, Vice President of Policy Think Tank Imani Ghana is questioning why government will cast doubt over the credibility of an institution like the IEA because of an unfavorable research report. Speaking on today's big story, Kofi Bentil said the findings should rather have been accepted wholeheartedly by government and used as a guide to correct some of the critical issues that came out. He said it serves no purpose for government to disregard the findings and cast a slur on its credibility.
We all have to have a sense of perspective when we deal with these things. Upon what basis is government saying this is, not a report that they have to take seriously? And what is the basis also for the persons who did the research to come up with what they came up with? Anybody who understands basic statistics knows that there are rules for conducting a research. Anybody can go on the street and just take a sample of the first 10 people that they meet and then ask them questions and then draw a conclusion. That will not be good enough. But when you have a reputable institution which has a track record for doing certain things and has put out the methodology by which they did it, and they have done the proper sampling and done the things that you properly must do to be able to determine that, oh, this is the general view on this and this issue. It is not in anybody's prerogative to come and say, I refuse or I will not, respect this or whatever. Okay? They have done their work, they have put out a report. What you can do is attack the methodology. Okay? In any case, nobody also has a responsibility to accept it per se. But my point is this: the greatest potential beneficiary of a report like this is government itself. That is, if they'll take the lessons from there and then maybe amend their ways. If they choose to rubbish it, it's their prerogative. Ultimately, we all pay for the decisions that we make. For me, I am not looking at, whose ox is God or who is put in a good or a bad light. It is important for the governance of this country that we have an idea of how the governed feel. It is important that we do some of these things to test the, effect of some of the decisions that we make. And if civil society organizations, out of their own volition, do some of these things, it is not for government to just rubbish it and say, well, we don't care what you say, we're just going to go on and do what we want to do. I don't think it's good for the governance of this country.
Well, out there on the streets, there were mixed views, though many were of the opinion that the Kankai is not limited to just the office of the president or the police.
Because they have daughters and sons, they will eat. This time, no money in our pockets, so everybody is finding ways and means to get money. So I don't think they are corrupt.
That is what people are saying. But to me personally, I'm not foul of them, so I can't say much about them.
When you talk of corruption, it started from the time of Adam. Even President Kufuor said it. And any citizen of Ghana is also corrupt, irrespective of where one goes to do business. Anyone who is rendering a service to you would like to have something from you. And the one who gives and the one who takes, they are all the same people. So I don't see why you should blame one institution or the other. Any citizen of Ghana, irrespective of where one is working, is corrupt. I totally disagree with what the IEA is saying.
Yes, there's corruption in the country, seriously. But before then, let me say, does the corruption goes for only the police and the government institution and the office of the presidency? Let's look at the judiciary. Look at the ministry. Let's look at the state housing. I mean, all the institutions, they are all corrupt. But of course, the police are the first people to come to mind because we always interact with them. Anytime you go to a police station and go back home, you don't leave empty-handed. You have to drop something definitely. Some corruption, we've been hearing the news. Maybe I don't have the eyes to see, but I have the ears to hear. So yes, they might be corrupt. But of course, coming back to the police service, let me say something that they have one of the best professional standards. Putting corruption, putting bribery away, compare Ghana police to other police services all over Africa, Ghana police is one of the best we have.
I don't agree. Let me first take it one by one.
Okay.
If you talk about the police service, we see them to be corrupt because of the obvious,
What is the obvious? I don't know. Tell me.
You know how they get a 1 cedi from the drivers on the streets and all. But that is, if you're talking about real corruption, that is not corruption, I'm telling you. Because the amount of money they take from these guys is, I'm not saying what the police is doing is cool, but I'm saying that it's minor, really minor.
Corruption is corruption, my dear.
I know corruption is corruption, but I don't see the police. Though they have a limit to it. Okay, we're talking about real. This is a whole IEA coming out with a whole research. We're talking about real embezzlement, and I don't think Ghana police. If you look at other police in other countries like India, they are the baddest. Okay, I'm not saying it's cool, but then it's really minor as compared to what other institutions are doing.
Okay.
Other institutions are really getting big bucks than what the police is getting from the people. Everybody thinks that, in quotes, that once you're a politician, you embezzle money or you're a thief. You thief taxes and stuff. Sorry for the word. But I don't think so. You see, they are ahead of issues. They lead things and they take the money to do stuff. So each time they are involved in money issues, it doesn't make them corrupt. Most of the time, they give the money out, for instance, to contractors for roads and stuff, and they actually chop the money.
All right, so from corruption onto something else that is of prime importance to all of us. The next few months, up to July, will be very critical for the Akosombo Dam, which supplies the bulk of Ghana's electricity needs, and for the energy crisis as a whole, unless there are enough rains to improve the water level in the reservoir. Now, at the current level of 244 feet, the lake is just 4 feet away from the minimum operating level of 240 feet, at which point the dam will have to stop generating all electricity, including the 540 megawatts that it currently supplies. That, officials explain, would mean a more intensified power rationing timetable, worse than the 24 hours without electricity that most Ghanaians are having to endure now. The Volta River Authority's Planning and Business Development Officer, Kofi Ellis, who was speaking at Joy FM's Power Forum on Wednesday, said the situation has become especially critical because not much was done to avert the crisis after officials sounded the warning last year.
We had this problem and we were shedding with a certain pattern because the deficit that we were dealing with was 300 and below. So it was very manageable at the ECG level. When we were getting to the third quarter of last year, I quite remember VRA hinted that the water level has started misbehaving. What we're saying was that this level we should have turned at the end of July, as at middle of August, has still not turned, which meant that the water level was misbehaving, in quotes. I can show you some graphs to show that instead of turning, it had gone way down, that it had gone past the minimum curve that we're supposed to operate. And that is where we started sounding that the water has become an additional problem to the existing problem that we're having. And as a result of that, these machines can no more produce at full capacity because the level had gone too low. And for that reason, we're going to have some impact in 2015's supply.
Mr. Ellis adds that officials have agreed to stretch the dam a little further, hoping that generation units that are being arranged by government and the VRA will become available to avert a total shutdown of the Akosombo Dam. He, however, says funding remains a critical factor.
We are in a situation where the thermal cost in this country is so high that the price that is paid for that thermal energy is so low. So if you're running a business, you want to balance it in such a way that you cut back on the losses as far as the selling of the product is concerned. Now, if I am not paid enough to cover the cost of running my thermal, and I have to survive as a company, I have to manage my hydrothermal resource in such a way that at the end of the year, I can be able to sail through my finances. VRA has been struggling through the management of these facilities because even the money to buy the next cargo has always been a problem. And if I want to go into that, that's a whole space of discussion. So I want to leave it like that.
Meanwhile, the Executive Director of the African Center for Energy Policy, Mohammed Amin Adam, says government is not being realistic with the timelines for resolution of the current crisis.
Project, you rightly said that it should have been on stream in 2009, because the two Alstom turbines were delivered to Ghana in 2008, and 20% of the civil works were done. And so it is surprising that we are now addressing that plant as if it's a new measure, which will be used to address the current crisis. But even with that, the timeline we were told in the 2015 budget should have been the end of December last year. So the new date we are hearing from Mr. Ellis is quite surprising. I am not sure the POM plant will be ready by June. I put it third quarter of this year. Because even when it is completed, they still need about 1 to 3 months for testing for commercial operation. Then the main challenge, with the POM plant is the fuel supply. We know that it's going to run on gas, and considering that West Africa gas pipeline is already having challenges supplying the required quantity for Asogli and TT1. The mine reserve plant. I'm wondering what the strategy is to secure gas supply for PON. And so it may well be that the project will be completed, but it may be stranded for lack of security of fuel to run the plant. And so I'm very doubtful about the PON plant being one of the measures to address the current crisis.
Now, it also emerged at the forum that though Ghana's installed generation capacity of 2,800 megawatts is well above the demand of 2,100 megawatts, the failure of some of the sources of energy to produce at maximum capacity is what has created the energy crisis, a situation officials say will persist a while longer. In a related development, the streets of Kumasi were swarmed with hundreds of demonstrators who poured out to register their displeasure with what they describe as the bad governance of the NDC administration. The demonstration, dubbed Yabre, literally meaning we are tired, is seeking to compel President John Dramani Mahama to outline strategic measures to curtail the current power crisis in the country. A report by Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin.
Though clad in black and red, the procession was not to mourn a death, but to agitate against the existing power crisis and economic hardship. Many of them held placards with inscriptions that bore their depiction of the state of governance in the country. The crowd first assembled at State Boys School Park, from where they marched through the principal streets of the metropolis. The teeming crowd brought along with them electrical gadgets they say have been destroyed by the frequent power outages. Officials of the Ghana Police Service were on hand to ensure the demonstration was carried out in a peaceful and orderly manner. Opposition NPP members in parliament who participated in the demonstration said Ghanaians are suffering and accused government of not listening to the plight of the people.
So we want Mahama to listen that Ghanaians are tired. They want to do the right thing. Some are suggesting that if the NPP should bring out their ideas. We should bring out our ideas. Give me that chance to go there. Which ideas are we giving them? Which ideas are we giving them? Only tell them they say Ethiopia. That's what there is for. We have given them plenty of advice. My brother, the problem is simple. They chop their money so much they don't have money to buy petrol to fuel the thermal plant. Why are they shipping the letters to St. Hills? In 2008, we spent $500 million to buy petrol so VRA can generate. Where is the money? They spend money to import electricity from Ivory Coast for you and I to waste. These are serious.
Health officials have raised concern Accra could experience yet another cholera epidemic this year after the disease claimed 150 lives the previous year. Out of 14 cases recorded since the beginning of this year, 4 people are said to have died so far. A public health specialist for the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Emmanuel, says the disease continues to claim lives in Accra because people are refusing to change their lifestyles. He was speaking at a forum on cholera organized by the College of Physicians and Surgeons.
According to the public health specialist with the Ghana Health Service, the number of cases are ramping up and is of major concern.
The cholera outbreak that started since last year, June 2014, has continued. At the end of 2014, all the other regions are no more reporting cases. But Greater Accra is still having the outbreak. As at the 8th of February, that's the data that we have as at 8th. They have reported this year 4 deaths in Greater Accra region.
The rector of the College of Physicians and Surgeons, Professor David Ofori Ejay, says the recurrence of the disease, which is mainly a hygienic problem, is an indictment on the health system.
Cholera outbreak is a severe indictment on the public health system of our country. It means that even if we know of the problem, even if we have the laws that could deal with the problems, the implementation of those laws, the implementations of those procedures are not being effectively implemented. And I think part of the equation is to find out how best to do this so that we can get this implemented. But above all, I think this is also a political problem.
Chairman of the Health Committee of Parliament, Joseph Yelechwe, however, believes with the right approach and attitude, cholera would be a thing of the past.
It is about people taking their health serious and putting the responsibility on them. During this seminar, you heard the government do this, government do this. But each one of us should say, my life is involved. What should I also do? And when you take that responsibility, should I wash my hands? Should I eat good food? Should I just buy food by the wayside? These are decisions that we make every day. So apart from government providing the environment that we think is congenial, individuals have a responsibility to do these things.
Lukewarm attitudes of the citizenry and duty bearers has undoubtedly contributed to the shameful disease rolling on to 2015. And the fear is that if necessary steps are not taken, the next outbreak could even be worse.
The town of Hovi in the Volta region appears to have been completely deserted after tidal waves washed away scores of homes over the weekend. The National Disaster Management Organization has promised to send relief items to the affected residents who are currently putting up with friends and families in the neighboring communities. But those affected say they would rather prefer they are relocated so they can be spared the imminent threat from the sea. Matilda from Maga has more.
For years, communities within the Keta municipality have been battling with the ravaging effects of the sea and the lagoon. Keji, Jita and Anyanywi, with close to 15,000 people, after being completely cut off as a result of the tidal waves, have found new homes in the government relocation program. But there are other communities such as Hovi who are now having to live with the threat of the tidal waves. After about 100 of their homes were washed away, the residents were forced to move on. The National Disaster Management Organization says it has already been to the area to assess the needs of the victims and that help will soon reach them.
Yeah, we have forwarded these numbers to the regional coordinator. He also forwarded to the national coordinator for any action to be taken. Yeah, the only solution we can provide is just to give them some relief items, to give them moving for a meanwhile while the government look for another solution to their problems. Situation like this, they are looking for at least beds, food items, plastic cups, plastic bowls, that to keep them moving for a meanwhile.
But the residents are no longer keen on emergency relief.
At times, if the thing happened, they just came to give us some mattresses and some other things, but that will not solve the problem for us. We want them to do something to the sea so that
like
like sea defense, because we will be all. Other than that, all of us will move from here to any other places which we don't know.
Government should relocate us. Giving us relief items will not end our problems. If we have a place of our own, we can work hard to take care of ourselves.
Actually, we've been eating every day. Relief items will not do anything for us. You see, they will bring the food, we will eat. Hotness, nothing. If I'm not feeling comfortable and you give me food to eat, I can't enjoy the food. For me to take relief item without any place to rest, I don't think it's proper.
According to residents, a sea defense project such as this one constructed from Keta to Aflau should put an end to the perennial washing away of their homes by the sea. For Joy News, Matilda Pomaga, Keta, Volta region.
With 6 days to the district level elections, it is still unclear whether the polls will actually take place. A disqualified aspirant for the position of assemblyman in the Ayepa electoral area in the central region, Benjamin Eyi Mensah, has sued the Electoral Commission for rejecting his nomination papers. When the case was called before the Supreme Court today, it appeared the lawyer for the Electoral Commission hadn't done his homework properly.
Lawyer of the plaintiff, Alexander Afenyo-Markins, mounted an aggressive argument against the EC's decision to open and close nominations when the constitutional instrument governing the polls had not been passed. He told the Supreme Court with 7 justices sitting that the ongoing process is null and void. But lawyer for the Electoral Commission, Kwasi Aidan, rejected these arguments, arguing that the commission acted in accordance with the law. The judges, however, pointed to him that the law he had cited was only meant to regulate presidential and parliamentary elections. Still, in an attempt to convince the court, Mr. Aidan cited a different law, which the judges once again pointed out was meant for only unit committee elections and not district-level elections. After 2 unsuccessful efforts to convince the court, Mr. Kwasi Aidan asked for a 15-minute break to consult with some top EC officials. Subsequently, Mr. Aidan requested for an adjournment. The court agreed and adjourned the matter to February 26.
Since its inception about 8 years ago, Ghana's school feeding program has grappled with various controversies and challenges. From the quality of food through quantity served to payment of caterers who work on the program, the challenges have been numerous and enormous. What you have not seen yet is the extent pupils will go to ensure they personally enhance the meals served them in school. Martha Krenselakwa has more from her alma mater, Liberty Avenue 4 Primary in Accra.
How are you?
We are fine, thank you. And what about you?
Oh, we are also fine here. Thank you.
I was a pupil of the Liberty Avenue 4 Primary School some 24 years ago. Standing in what used to be my primary 5 classroom, I am recognized by Miss Amankra, a teacher who is surprisingly still at the school. This room still houses primary 5 pupils, but something has changed. The class is highly congested now. And that is not the only change. The children now benefit from the school feeding program. Today, they are having jollof rice for lunch. There is a scramble for food, and it looks like utter chaos. However, the caterer assured me everything is under control. She says she knows the over 400 children by face. However, most of the pupils want more than just the food.
So, she has decided to go for chicken to make her jollof extra nice. Spaghetti and fish to your food. Yes. Why?
Oh, because they don't give us fish or meat.
So we will take the food and go and buy some fish to eat with it.
They may not have much money, but with 1 Ghana cedi, they can add fish, meat, egg and spaghetti to the school food. However, in some instances, they simply can't do anything to improve the quality of food.
Mondays, you all know what to eat on Monday. What do you eat?
Jollof.
On Tuesday, what do you eat?
Beans.
On Wednesday?
Banku.
Thursday?
Wache.
And then Friday? Okay.
Oh, and in case you are wondering what they call the school feeding program, listen to this.
Why are you not eating the jollof?
I don't like jollof.
Oh, why? Jollof is the same as rice. Is it a school feeding jollof that you don't like?
Yes.
Why?
I don't like abang.
You call the jollof abang?
Yes.
Martha Kwensolakwa reporting for Joy News, Accra.
We want chicken and macaroni to add it. We want good food to eat and add to
Okay, that was really funny, and they needing the eggs and the things to enhance their bang. Martha Kwensolakwa put together that report. We're taking a break. We'll be back with business. All right, so I'm still very freaked out about this story about Abang and the kids wanting to enhance their meal, the school feeding meal. But Etonam saying is here. Etonam Chome is here.
Etonam say.
with the business news, Etonam. So
hello, Easy.
You take it away. Did you have that encounter in school where?
No, we never had Abang.
You didn't benefit from.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they are fortunate.
Well, they are, but were you in the boarding house?
Yes, I was.
Was your food as good as?
There was this one we were calling gas moftoto. Okay. I don't know how you were calling it. We
also called it gas. Yeah. All right, take it away.
All right, thank you. Time to talk business. My name is Etonam Same. The General Secretary of the Railway Workers Union, Godwill Ntama, says workers will resist any attempt to lay them off unless government offers them good retrenchment packages. He was speaking at the union's National Executive Council meeting in Takoradi. William Benjamin Peters has filed this report.
The meeting looked at opportunities for revamping the rail sector in Ghana. Most of the deliberations were centered on workers' salaries, investments in the company, as well as retrenchment packages for workers who are likely to lose their jobs. It came to light that majority of the workers are willing to be laid off because they acknowledge the bad state of affairs in the company. But they insisted they wouldn't go without the right retrenchment packages. General Secretary of the Railway Workers Union, Godwill Ntama, said only 50% of what is due the over 1,000 workers who had been laid off from 1993 and 2006 had been paid. He wants the government to sustain the operations of the company by releasing funds for the procurement of spare parts for locomotives, continuous haulage of manganese, as well as passengers.
It is unfortunate that the woes of the company at every point in time are put at the doorsteps of the workers. In 1993, over 1,300 workers were retrained with a view of taking good care of the rest. Again, in 2006, 674 workers were sacrificed and were even deceived that their packages were ready. It ended up that only 50% of what was due them was paid. The remaining 50% was paid 3 years after by the NDC government. All these layoffs did not ensure the viability of the company. We are guided by all these facts as we move on. I have every belief that we have the support of our rank and file in this and other struggles the union will be involved in this year.
Managing Director of Ghana Railway Company, Ben Amafu, called on government to expedite efforts to complete the rehabilitation of the Western Rail line.
Before the company can survive and make progress, there is a need for investment to be made. As the company is wholly owned 100% by the government, we would ever plead that the government take a closer look at this. We at Railway or GRC believe that if the line to Awaso is repaired and we are able to haul as much as 100,000 tons of bauxite in addition to other commodities, we can stand on our own feet.
Deputy Minister for Transport Joyce Bawa Mokhtar said plans are far advanced by government to rehabilitate, modernize and expand Ghana's rail network, which currently has only an operational track length of 130 kilometers out of a possible 947 kilometers.
What's up with inflation? Inflation, the prices of goods and services produced by industries for January 2015 went down to 23.5% from the December 2014 figure of 34.2%. The Ghana Statistical Service attributes the fall to a reduction in inflation in the manufacturing subsector.
The new 23.5% PPI represents a 10.7 percentage points decrease compared to the 34.2% recorded in December 2014. The monthly inflation rate for January 2015 was negative 1.4%. The Statistical Service attributes the decrease in the PPI mainly to the fall in commodity prices in the manufacturing subsector.
For the manufacturing subsector, the decrease in the rate from about 33.1% in December to 22.6% in January 2015 was the result of the decrease in the prices of the following products. We have falling prices for the manufacture of coke and refined petroleum products, which decreased from about 30.9% in December 2014 to a low of 4.3% in January 2015. And this was basically due to the downward adjustment in the prices of petroleum products.
Although the GSS cannot make projections for the future, it says a continuous reduction in the PPI could have some economic implications.
If the producer price inflation is coming down, it means that the margins that producers will be receiving for their products is also coming down. It means that their profit margins are coming down. Those who can survive may have to shut down some of their plants or lay off other workers, but it depends whether that would bring prices down for everybody to afford, or it's going to be so low that they can't operate. If they can operate within those levels, then that is fine. But if they cannot operate, then that is the danger.
The mining and quarrying subsector recorded the highest year-on-year PPI rate of 36.4%, while the utilities subsector recorded an inflation rate of 15.8%.
In other stories, President of the Chartered Institute of Accountants Ghana, Professor Omanientri, says the poor corporate governance system in state-owned companies is robbing the state of its wealth. He says public institutions must be made responsible and held accountable to work hard and grow in profitability.
Omanientri was speaking to journalists after his presentation on corporate governance and its impact on the national economy at the IFC-ACCA dialogue in Accra.
Remember, if you put your money in a business, you are asking some people to manage for you. These are the directors and the management team. If there is no best practice to govern them, they can do things that probably will not help to create wealth for the organization. Remember, when the business creates wealth, then the country grows. So corporate governance best practice helps to shape organizations in terms of how they grow the organization for profitability, in terms of how they relate to the environment. In terms of how even the employees will have job security, in terms of how even government will get the right taxes.
He bemoaned the downgrade of the value system.
We're getting wrong in all these corporate governance issues because as a country, Ghana, our values, we've lost our value system. We have to sit up as a country. We have to sit up as a government. We have to sit up as a state-owned enterprise. You see, I've always said that this country, if we don't put economy first before politics and culture, we'll have a problem. Most of the time, we put politics first and people talk about politics. That is not helping us. We need people that will talk about economy, how we grow economy. So even if it is a power sector, how do we ensure that there is sustained power for people so that it can be an engine of growth for other businesses? That is what we should be doing as a country.
Other speakers at the dialogue also advised public and private entities to ensure they appoint leaders who are committed and have the needed skills to move forward those business entities.
That'll be all for business. Sports is next. I'm Atani Delali. Thanks for your time.
Time for sports, and we begin with the Black Stars. Continental Commodity Trading Company, Rice Masters, the official meal sponsors of the Black Stars, have presented a check of 100,000 Ghana cedis to the Ghana Football Association. The amount represents the last tranche of its 400,000 Ghana cedis sponsorship agreement with the Ghana Football Association. Vice President of the FA, Fred Crenshaw, who received the package, thanked Rice Masters for its 4-year partnership with the GFA as meal sponsors of the Black Stars.
The amount involved in this agreement was 400,000 Ghana cedis. We have received 300,000 already spanning over this period, and we are all here today to receive another 100,000 Ghana cedis from CCTC. The contract came to an end in December 2014. We're in the throes of getting these things renewed, and I believe strongly that they will come forward with a gargantuan sponsorship.
We can now talk about the Ghana Premier League match day 9. Great games in it, but of course, champions Asante Kotoko failed to win yet again as they drew 1-1 with Rekum Chelsea at the Golden City Park. Hearts of Oak received the perfect tonic ahead of their CAF assignment this weekend as they beat second place the Gianna Stars 3-2 at the Accra Stadium. In other games, league leaders Ashanti Gold drew 2-2 with Heart Lions at home. So we can have a look at the fixtures. The results that came through on match day 9. We'll just go through that right now on your screen. Yes, and there's Inter Allies. They beat BA United by 2-0 as well. And as you can pick it, Wa All Stars beat Hazakes by 3-1. Hearts of Oak out there beat the Gianna Stars by 3-2. Very, very important for them as well. Ashanti Gold drew 2-2 with Heart Lions. They're still top of the table when you look at that later. Wafa beat the Dubiase by 3-1. Rekum Chelsea drawing 1-0 with Asante Kotoko. Mediamra SC drew 1-0 with Liberty Professionals. And Bechembe United beats Great Olympics by 2-0. Let's have a look at the table and what's looking at right now up there is Ashanti Gold consolidating the top spot, 22 points out there. The Gianna Stars, Heart Lions, Rekum Chelsea, Inter Allies, Wafa Hazakes, Bechembe United. The big question is, where are the Giants, Kotoko and Hearts of Oak? That would roll up now in the second part of the table, just to give you an idea of how they've struggled so far in that one. So we'll have a look at the second part of the table, and that's where you can find Hearts of Oak. Hearts of Oak currently 12 on the table in the 16-team league, and of course there is Kumasi Asante Kotoko who are 13. So every doubt there that they're really struggling out there. That's exactly what happened in the first Capital Plus Premier League. In the other game, we can have a look at that. In the other game as well between Bayer Leverkusen and Atletico Madrid is still goalless, and the two sides will try as much as possible to see how they could pick that one out there. News from the UEFA Champions League certainly then. It's just about time to say bye-bye to you and wrap it up in sports. Israelite will be joining us with some more. I'm George Adi Jr. You have a good night.
All right, that's it for the bulletin. Before we go a quick round through our top stories, the Akosombo Dam, which produces the bulk of Ghana's electricity, is facing critical times. In an energy crisis, the Volta River Authority says could have been avoided if only government had acted upon its warning early enough. Meanwhile, a massive demonstration to protest government management of the economy and the crippling energy crisis has been staged in Kumasi. The presidency came in second in a survey of 10 of the most corrupt state institutions right after the police. but government has rejected the tag and demanded that the Institute of Economic Affairs provide proof of such corruption. The Supreme Court has adjourned to Thursday a case in which a disqualified aspirant in the upcoming District Assembly and Unit Committee elections is seeking to be reinstated. And health officials are warning Accra could be struck by another cholera epidemic this year after more than 100 lives were lost to the disease last year. And that'll be all for the bulletin. My name is Tidal. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good evening.
This is Joy News Prime.